The shadow beneath the overpass trembled with more than just the vibrations of passing hover trains. Zek pressed his four skeletal arms closer to his chest, trying to conserve what little warmth remained in his failing body. The bioluminescent patches along his neck had dimmed to barely visible flickers, a sure sign that his kind was approaching death. 3 weeks! That's how long it had been since the Velthari rescue ship had abandoned him on this human colony world. Defective genetics, they had declared, unworthy of resources. In Velthari society, the weak were discarded without ceremony. It was logical. It was efficient. It was supposed to be painless. But dying slowly of starvation on an alien world was anything but painless. Zeke's people could absorb nutrients from almost any organic matter, but his malformed digestive system required specific enzymes that human food lacked. He had tried eating their vegetation, their processed meals, even their waste. Nothing worked. His body simply couldn't process it. The human colonists had initially tried to help when they found him collapsed near their settlement. Their medical personnel had run tests, consulted databases, even attempted to synthesize Velthari nutrients. But with no success and resources stretched thin on a frontier world, they had eventually given up. Not out of cruelty, Zeke had observed enough to understand that humans, unlike his own species, actually felt guilt about abandoning the helpless. But practical concerns had won out. Now he waited to die in the shadows, listening to the sounds of human life continuing above him. Hey! The voice was small, cautious. Zeke's compound eyes swiveled toward the sound, focusing with difficulty on a human child who couldn't have been more than 10 cycles old. The boy had sandy hair and wore clothes that had seen better days, patch pants, and a jacket too large for his frame. Most humans avoided this area. The few who had spotted Zeke H in recent days had hurried past, some crossing to the other side of the walkway. This child simply stood there, staring with wide brown eyes. "You're the alien everyone's talking about," the boy said. It wasn't a question. Zeke H tried to respond, but only managed a weak clicking sound from his throat. His translator implant had powered down days ago to conserve energy. The boy stepped closer, apparently unafraid. "My mom says you're dying because you can't eat our food." He tilted his head. That true? Another weak click. Zeke wasn't sure why he was trying to communicate. Perhaps some instinct for connection in his final moments. "I'm Tommy," the boy said, settling down cross-legged just out of arm's reach. "I live in the settlement with my mom and little sister. Dad died in the mining accident last year." Zeke's eyes tracked the boy's movements. There was something different about this human. Where others had looked at him with pity, fear, or resignation, Tommy's gaze held only curiosity and something else, determination. "Everyone says there's nothing we can do," Tommy continued conversationally. "But that's what they said about my sister when she got the wasting sickness. Doctors gave up on her too." He pulled something from his jacket pocket, a small device that Zeke H recognized as a personal data pad, though this one was clearly salvaged and repaired multiple times. "But I didn't give up," Tommy said, activating the device. "I kept reading, kept learning. Found out about enzyme therapy from some old medical files. Had to trade my dad's watch to get the supplies, but I saved her." The boy's fingers moved across the pad's surface with surprising skill. "So I've been researching your people. Took me weeks to find anything useful in the colony's database, but..." He turned the screen toward Zeke H. "Velthari digestive systems can process human food if it's pre-treated with specific bacterial cultures. Cultures we actually have here. We use them in our waste recycling systems." Zeke's eyes widened. The information scrolling across the screen was accurate, detailed, and represented hours of painstaking research. This human child had accomplished what the colony's trained medical staff had failed to do. "Problem is," Tommy continued, "I can't get access to the recycling plant. Security's too tight, and no adult will listen to a kid." He powered down the pad and looked directly at Zeke H. "But I've been bringing you something else." From his other pocket, Tommy pulled out a small container. Inside were what looked like Standard human ration bars, but they had an unusual greenish tint. "I've been cultivating the bacteria in my mom's kitchen," Tommy explained. "Started with samples from our water purification system. It's not perfect, probably only converts about 30% of the nutrients, but it should be enough to keep you alive while I figure out how to get the real equipment." He set the container down between them. "I know you probably can't understand everything I'm saying, but—" Tommy's voice dropped to a whisper, as if sharing a secret. "You can have my food." Zek stared at the container, then at the boy. The child's offer wasn't just food, it was hope. More than that, it was proof of something Zeke H. had never encountered in his own species: the willingness to expend precious resources on a being that offered nothing in return. With trembling limbs, Zeke H. reached for the container. The treated rations had an odd taste, but as he consumed them, he felt the first stirring of energy he'd experienced in days. His bioluminescent patches flickered brighter. "Good," Tommy said, grinning. "I wasn't sure if I got the bacterial ratio right." Over the following days, Tommy returned regularly with more treated food and updates on his research. He had enlisted the help of other children, creating a network of small allies who could access areas adults ignored. Slowly, Zeke's strength returned. But more importantly, something else was returning, something Zeke H. had thought lost forever: hope, purpose, the desire to live not just for survival, but for connection. On the 7th day after their first meeting, Tommy arrived with news that changed everything. "I convinced Dr. Martinez to look at my research," he announced proudly. "Turns out she's not as closed-minded as the other adults. She's agreed to help us access the recycling plant." Within hours, Zeke H. was consuming properly treated nutrients for the first time in weeks. His recovery was rapid and complete. But the impact went far beyond his personal survival. Word spread through the colony about the boy who had refused to accept the impossible. Scientists arrived from other worlds, eager to study Tommy's enzyme therapy techniques. The colony's approach to xenobiology was revolutionized. But for Zeke, the most important change was simpler. He had discovered that in a galaxy full of species that abandoned their weak, discarded their flawed, and prioritized efficiency over compassion, there existed one race that produced children willing to whisper, "You can have my food," to a dying stranger. Years later, when Zeke H. had become the colony's leading expert on interspecies biology, and Tommy had grown into a renowned xenobiologist, they would often reflect on that moment under the overpass. It had been more than a rescue. It had been a revelation about what made humans unique in the cosmic community. They didn't abandon their problems. They solved them. They didn't discard the broken. They fixed them. And sometimes, when the galaxy seemed at its darkest, a human child would appear with a simple offer that illuminated the fundamental truth about their species. They shared their food with strangers, not because it was logical or efficient, but because it was right. In a universe governed by survival of the fittest, humanity had chosen to redefine what fitness meant. And that, Zeke H. knew, was why they would ultimately inherit the stars.